Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. David Perrodin, and I'm your instructor for Educational Leadership 702, Superintendent Current and Legal Issues. The course will be held in the Nursing Center, Room 101 at Viterbo University. Park in the theater lot off of Jackson Street, and you'll be right there. So I am your instructor, and what I'm going to do is go through the syllabus right now and touch on some of the expectations and my style for instructing this course. So first off, I have been a faculty member with Viterbo for the last, I believe, 16 years. Wow. I have taught in the Educational Leadership program for a number of years, Pupil Services Non-Discrimination, and more recently, this course. So how this will be structured. So you have the syllabus emailed to you. I'm going off of that same document here on page number 1. There are 2 required textbooks for the class. The first one is Law and Ethics in Education and Leadership by David L. Statter. And you can find this book sometimes on eBay, otherwise, used off of Amazon. And this will be a staple of the class. So this is a required book. Make sure that you get it in time for that first session. You're able to review it. Hey, I know the author of this book. School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, out of Rowman and Littlefield. Yes, the book that I wrote that released in August. This is also required. And we will focus on this book when we get into the last week of class. So this is a required book. $30 new on Amazon. I'm not sure if there are used copies out there or not. But School of Errors, it is a hard copy. And this is a book that you will use as a superintendent to help you navigate where we're at right now with school safety rhetoric versus reality. So also have an optional book for you to consider. I will incorporate portions of this book into class, but you're not required to purchase it. The book is Violence in Student Writing, a School Administrator's Guide by Gretchen Oltman. I've worked with Gretchen to put together PowerPoint presentations on violence in student writing. This is a really wonderful book. It comes in at 117 pages once you have the appendix. But what she does is includes a lot of questions to consider. And this is so essential right now because with school violence, administrators are looking at threat assessment and a way to identify what has been written by students and categorizing it as either threatening or not threatening. So very essential work right now that she has done. Again, violence in student writing. So you might want to check this out. All right. So bring a laptop or iPad or whatever you can access Moodle with during the class because we won't have paper handouts. So you'll be accessing Moodle. I'll have it also up on the screen, but there will be several case studies that I've generated. They're short, but you'll need to bring them up on your devices. And also there are articles. We'll be talking about real-time things, what's happening, and you'll need to be able to access those. And you'll also be working sometimes in small groups. You'll need access. So I strongly recommend you get that figured out ahead of time. Usually the wireless is pretty good at Viterbo. So let's move on to page number 2. All right. The first session is September 14th. Starts 8 o'clock. Okay, that's a Saturday. So it's 8 to 5. We'll decide during class whether we're going to stay for lunch or whether we're going to break. I typically stay. I typically bring my lunch with me. But sometimes students take the lunch off. That's totally up to you. You can, or as a group, you can order in. People have done that too. But 8 to 5. So that's session 1. Session 2 is October 5th. Session 3 is November 2nd. It's critical that you make all of these classes. because obviously missing one is eliminating 33% of our face-to-face contact. Now, this class does have a Moodle Companion that you need to be aware of, because that's where the case studies will be posted. That's where you'll upload your links to articles that you want to discuss during class. But that's a companion to the class. It's not a whole separate class. It's just a companion that goes with it. But you need to access the Moodle class, or the Moodle portion of the class, where a lot of the resources will be posted prior to our face-to-face meetings. I'll send you instructions on how to do that within the next few days. I'm finishing constructing the class right now in Moodle. So again, I'll have it done in the next few days and send you instructions on how to access it. Now, there won't be discussion boards in that class because, again, we're going to have our face-to-face discussion when we actually meet at Viterbo University. So I am on to page 3. So for Saturday, September 14th, so important, our first class, you're going to post to Moodle before class. So prior to our first class, you're going to upload links for 3 current education articles that we could discuss during class. This doesn't mean that I'm going to take all 3 of your articles and go through them, but I want some variety. So it can be something happening local or happening across Wisconsin, regional, national, whatever. And try to make them varied, like, that you don't have 3 articles all on school safety, maybe an article on dress code and an article locally on school boards giving bonuses to, staff or something like that has brought up controversy, and another one, maybe administering, medications to students or something like that, whatever. Something that's relevant to you, though, not just something that you find, something that's relevant you want to know more about, or something that has happened to you, to somebody that you know, and you want to have a discussion in class about the legal aspects of that. So that's what we'll do. And I need those posted at least a few days before class, because I want to go through all the articles, and then when we get to class, everyone would be able to access those article links. They'll be able to go into Moodle and they'll be able to see your links. And I might say, okay, we're going to go through this article that you submitted. And I would have you lead that. So make sure that you just don't submit articles and then you haven't read them. So say, here's a summary of this article. Here's why it was interesting to me. And here's some points like that you would say during class and say, describe this. So, and then we would get into it. That's a very rich part of this class because it's very dynamic, very fluid to what's changing between the first class and the second class, and third class. So again, 3 links. Those will be in Moodle. There'll be a tab saying post your links here. It'll actually be a discussion thread. Post your links here. That's all you have to do is post the 3 links. Maybe post a sentence describing the article, like, an article where school board had to censor one of its own members or whatever. So, okay, wow. And then, we would get into that and be framing that from the perspective of like the superintendent. How does that work then as a superintendent when you have a dysfunctional school board? So resources and discussion themes. So this is where I want you really to do an inventory of the resources that your district accesses. So whether that be WASDA, WASBO, WSB, WEAC, WCAS, CSUP, whatever. This will be enlightening because in the past, students have said, I didn't even know we got these services from, the CISA. When I did an inventory of these, I didn't know that we were getting, 5 days of curriculum and instruction because I don't remember what that actually looked like. We didn't have a board monitoring report or whatever. So it's interesting because people usually discover groups that they're a part of, and they might be paying a membership, and they really aren't utilizing those groups very much. So this is something I think that will be very enlightening for you, and we can talk about these groups a little bit during class. So assignments for September 14th, you're going to bring a 2 to 4 page paper describing the services that you've utilized in your professional organizations. Now, if you're not in a superintendent role, you can identify the superintendent role in our district has access to WASB and WCAS and whatever it is, or your administrative team, and then how the benefit that you're getting from that or the benefit that you're not getting from that. So we'll go over that. So that's largely our first day. So I'm going to move us on to page 4. So what I'm going to do is set the framework for how we will analyze pretty much everything that we discussed in this class. So the superintendent triad, which consists of the best interest of the student, the superintendent's discretion, and the induction process for staff and students. So we're going to really lock in on those through the entire class. Utilizing the school attorney, the best interest of the child, professional discretion, induction, the role of advisory groups, internal structures to inform the superintendent, administrative cabinet meetings, and then I'm going to give my experiences as a legal expert witness specific to one very intense, very long case where I was retained by the plaintiff who was litigating against the school on behalf of a student who had died. And it was a wrongful death lawsuit. So I'm going to share my role in that, and then also the implications for the school board, superintendent, principals, teachers, and other staff. So again, I'm going to really put this out in a deep legal framework. This is something that I do on a regular basis. So articles to discuss, I'll have this. So you'll just go in and you'll see Moodle for September 14th. There'll be a heading. Just go in there and you'll know what your expectations are for that class. I have an article, The Right to Select Methodology. Go through that and we'll have a discussion on meeting FAPE versus supplanting services, background checks, liability, memorandum of understanding, proprietary teaching materials, and supervision of an outside provider. This comes into play substantially in districts that have agreements with third-party providers for areas such as mental health, autism, and so on. I see this more prevalent in smaller districts, but in Wisconsin, we have 421 districts, and to be a small district, it's like 300 districts, right? Under 1,000 students. So we're going to have a serious discussion on the right to select methodology because this looks significantly different from district to district, and this has many legal implications for the school superintendent. We're also going to talk about the vagabonds, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, and John Burroughs, and the whole concept of member checks. Basically, a member check is somebody that tells you what you need to hear and not necessarily what you need to hear. Very critical for the school superintendent. And we'll go through that discussion because really, who can relate to a school superintendent other than another school superintendent? It's like someone going to the moon and trying to describe what it's like to be on the moon to someone who hasn't been there. Okay. So really a challenge. You have to find those member checks. Saturday, October 5th. I am now on page 5. Post to Moodle before class. Again, your 3 links to articles. So this will be something you'll do every class. So you'll go and you'll post the 3 links. Assignments. So conduct research and prepare a 2 to 4 page paper. So for the first class, you had that paper, which was identifying the resources that you used as a superintendent to help inform your practice. So bring that one print copy to class, a print copy for me. Don't email it to me. Bring a print copy to class for me. And ideally not stapled, maybe just like paper clipped together. I do grade them by hand and then scan them, return them to you. But anyway, here we go back on Saturday, October 5th. So your 2 to 4 page paper, again, this can be in an outline type format, but it needs to be logical. Your position on issues relating to transgender students in bathrooms, locker rooms, as well as participation in athletic teams. I gave a link right there to the WIA/DPI Cooperative Transgender Participation Policy document. And I want you to really go through that and pay attention to where the responsibility lies for making decisions on student eligibility, because it's not necessarily with the WIA and it's not with the DPI. It really defaults back to the district. So that's, again, when we come back to that that triad that includes acting in the best interest of the student. Obviously, in your superintendent role, and you're probably discovering this more and more, Wisconsin has much local control. So we want to make sure that we're exercising that local control in a way that we could justify it and also have consistency and also defend it if necessary. So put that assignment together. Activities that we'll do during class, I will have case studies. So again, you'll get to see those ahead of time in Moodle. And I might have anywhere between 3 and 4 case studies and, probably a page to 2 pages long. I won't go through all of those again during class, but I'll pick out some of those, and I'll probably break us into 2 groups, have some time to go through those, and then we'll talk about the implications of those case studies. Articles to discuss. We're going to talk about email access from home, expectations, open records request, also allergy management in schools, HR investigations, employee access to files, some of those types of things. So let's go to page 6, Saturday, November 2nd. So this day is primarily focused on school safety. So this is my area of expertise. It's also a massive area of discussion right now for all school administrators. It's really the hub of discussion, school safety. So I have a presentation on Wisconsin Public Television from July 3rd that I will link out. You'll be able to access that. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. The presentation itself was 58 minutes, and then there's like 20 minutes of question and answer with the audience after that. So you're not required to watch the audience part, but you need to watch the main part. And then also, by that time, you need to have read my book. It's 204 pages, cover to cover, but it's about a 5-6 hour read total. Using those 2 items, my book and then my PBS presentation, write a 2 to 4 page paper that describes critical thinking in leading a school safety practices. Because there's some really wild stuff that's happening right now for school safety. Superintendents making extreme decisions for school fortification or hyper-realistic drills and exercises and the implications of those. And you need to be very aware of those. And how much of manipulation happens to a school board when vendors are allowed access to administrators, to teachers, and then also to the school board versus working with your insurance company to be informed about school safety. I'll get into that. So your final project, so that you're going to have a 2 to 4 page paper due on school safety on November 2nd. And also your final project, here's another document, and it's going to be about the standards, kind of a reflection document. And I'm going to ask you to present about it. Give you about 15 minutes, just what impacted you from the class, specific to the standards, how you're going to apply that, and then we'll entertain questions for about 5 minutes. So that'll be pretty easy going. It's not you don't need a PowerPoint, you don't need anything formal. It's not like a board presentation to go with that. It is a document that you need to submit with me. I'm very much for outlines and very concise documents. You're not going to need a big APA section. You are superintendents or your administrative, leaders right now, and I know your time is very pressed in the school year, and I don't want you putting it into an essay or a thesis type document for me. We'll have very rich discussions to scaffold anything that I don't think is represented in your paper. Again, we'll do case studies on November 2nd, and we're going to talk about also from my book, the concept of the torus, T-O-R-U-S, and the need for students to have reconnaissance and how safety really is defined through a student being able to explore their environment. We're going to talk about the article, Your Best Defense, which I wrote a couple of years ago, how you can prepare yourself to lessen the likelihood of being involved in litigation, or if you are involved in litigation, ways to hopefully have you navigate that much smoother. So that will be the crux here of our time together. I'm excited to teach this class, and I am a little bit about me. So I was a school administrator for a dozen years, and I retired June 10th. So now I solely do consulting with districts and companies, mostly on the West Coast. I do that through non-disclosure agreements for the most part, meaning I do not identify who I work for. And of course, my book was released in August, and I'm working on the sequel to that, which specifically addresses school safety drills and exercises and the need to have common rule or institutional review board to ensure that we're not bringing harm to any of the subjects participating in those drills. So I appreciate your any questions, send them. My email address is on the syllabus. My phone number is there. If you need to get a hold of me, very proximal to class, like that day, that morning of or day before, text me at that number or call me and get a hold of me. But again, plan on those 3 days at Viterbo. And any questions, get a hold of me. Make sure you're accessing Moodle ahead of time. So